The director of Dune Parts 1 and 2, Denis Villeneuve, had already shown he could make a magnificent-looking film with Blade Runner 2049, which was an exceptional sequel. I didn't expect it to be great, but it was, and so I had similar expectations, at least for the visuals, in Dune Parts 1 and 2. And they don't disappoint. These films are aesthetically flawless. The story of Dune is about kings and rulers who use politics, religion, and the military to control the known universe. Dune also tells about an oppressed native population, the Fremen, but by the end of Dune Part 2, the Fremen are shown to be violent religious fanatics who never take on human dimensions. So the Dune films are quite different from Blade Runner 2049, which is about humanoid androids who are created to be slaves and their struggle for personhood. Dune Parts 1 and 2, in contrast, don't go there on an emotional level. And that's a deliberate choice. The subject matter of the Dune films is more macro, even though the films ostensibly focus on the character journey of Paul Atreides, played here by Timothée Chalamet. Now, these films and the early Dune novels by Frank Herbert are far more concerned with the toxic combination of politics, religion, and the military driving humanity toward extinction, and which Paul Atreides seemingly was born to prevent. Frank Herbert has said that the name Atreides is based on the House of Atreus from Greek mythology. The House of Atreus is a cursed line of kings who led the Greek armies during the Trojan War. Their actions were often far from noble and sometimes were downright disgusting. Now, speaking of which, in the Dune universe, House Harkonnen, the enemies of the Atreides, embody the more gruesome and nasty aspects of the House of Atreus. The Atreides and Harkonnens are just two families who form a council of great houses in the Landsraad, which, along with the Emperor Shaddam IV of House Carino, rule the universe. Interstellar travel has become common because of Spacing Guild navigators who use a drug known as spice to open their minds and sharpen their senses and God knows what else. David Lynch's film adaptation of Dune showed the Guild navigators as barely human anymore. They were mutated after ingesting massive amounts of spice, and that's how they're depicted in the novels as well. Spice is only found on one planet in the universe, Arrakis, aka Dune, because of the planet's desert character. Spice mining has become the lucrative purview of House Harkonnen, who rule Arrakis on behalf of the Imperium and control the spice trade. Arrakis has a native population, the Fremen, who are brutally oppressed by the Harkonnens. The Fremen use spice in their everyday meals and have a prophetic religion that speaks of a coming savior, the Lisan al-Gaib, who will liberate them from the imperial oppressor. As it turns out, the religion was planted among the Fremen centuries earlier by missionaries of the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, a cult of women who have planted this same prophecy throughout the universe. The Bene Gesserit have a ritual which uses a lethal dose of spice to gain access to the memories and counsel of their female ancestors. Makes them very powerful if they survive the ritual. And here's the kicker. Only women are able to transmute the spice after ingesting the lethal dose. If a man tries it, he will die, except there will be a savior, a man, who will be able to do it. So the Bene Gesserit fear the prophecy that they themselves planted, which says that a coming male prophet who is greater than they will become ruler of all, supposedly. Now, the prophecy raises a bunch of questions for me. The Bene Gesserit religion says only a man can access his male and female ancestral memories. But why is that? Has a woman ever tried to access her male ancestral memories? And if a man can transmute the lethal dose of spice, why does he get both male and female ancestors' memories? Is it because of the X and Y chromosomes? And why does he get to be so much more powerful than a woman who gets only her female ancestral memories? Shouldn't he be only twice as powerful instead of all-powerful, supposedly? The Bene Gesserit also have a secret breeding program that mixes the DNA of the sisterhood with the male scions of the great houses. They believe they can produce a male ruler who can ingest the lethal dose of spice and be reborn as what they call the Kwisatz Haderach, who can bridge space and time through prescient visions that will lead humanity away from extinction. The Kwisatz Haderach is known among the Fremen as the Lisan al-Gaib. Paul Atreides is the scion of House Atreides. His father is the Duke, Leto Atreides, and his mother is a Bene Gesserit sister, the Lady Jessica. Duke Leto Atreides has become popular in the Landsraad, and he's favored by the Emperor, who apparently rewards the Duke by giving him control of Arrakis and spice production. But it's a trap. According to the novel, the Emperor has become jealous of the Duke's popularity and only gave him Arrakis so that the great house that used to control the planet, House Harkonnen, could launch a surprise attack along with the Emperor's own shock troops. Now, Duke Leto and nearly his entire house die in the attack. Jessica and Paul survive by fleeing to the desert, where they join a Fremen tribe. Now, as soon as the Atreides had arrived on Arrakis, the Fremen recognized the signs of prophecy. A mother and son from the outer world. Here, that seems to be Jessica and Paul. Although she's Bene Gesserit, Lady Jessica is unusual in that she fell in love with Duke Leto. The novel tells us she had been commanded to give birth to a girl who would be bred with the son of House Harkonnen to produce the Kwisatz Haderach, but knowing that Duke Leto wanted a son, she gave birth to Paul. The Bene Gesserit training allows women to control the gender of the child at birth. Jessica also believed her son Paul could become the Kwisatz Haderach and trained him up in the ways of the Bene Gesserit, including advanced fighting skills and using the voice to force people to do their bidding. This tells us a lot about Jessica's character. She has a need to prove herself through the success of her son, even to the point of sacrificing his life to do it. So, boom, right there. This gives us a clue why the character of Lady Jessica seems so much more fleshed out than anybody else in the films. It's not only because Rebecca Ferguson's performance is dazzlingly successful. Now, she embodies the mystique and power of the Bene Gesserit, but her motivations also give the character a human dimension, unlike many of the characters here. Even Paul, the protagonist, is depicted as a mere byproduct of his ancestral heritage. He was bred to be the parent of the Kwisatz Haderach, and this proves true in the third novel, Children of Dune, where Paul rejects the path of the Kwisatz Haderach, but his son takes up the mantle. By the end of Villeneuve's Dune Part 2, Paul avenges the death of his father, Duke Leto, and assumes the throne, calling himself Emperor of the known universe. So Paul is tested again and again, and he never fails his breeding. Now, the question for me becomes, is that type of story compelling? I think so, but it isn't as compelling as a story about flawed individuals yearning for freedom and transformation, which is the story of Blade Runner 2049. Dune Parts 1 and 2 are the best film adaptations yet of Frank Herbert's Dune. The portrayal of House Harkonnen, for example, is unforgettable. Their homeworld, the planet Giedi Prime, is portrayed as having a black sun, so the outdoor scenes are filmed in black and white. Now, those aesthetics are not from the novels. That's Denis Villeneuve being a genius. The population is warlike, bald-headed, dressed in black, and are forced to show unconditional loyalty to the dictator who rules the planet, the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, played here by Stellan Skarsgård as a morbidly obese sadist. Now, previous film adaptations portrayed the Baron as merely disgusting instead of compulsively watchable as he is here. The Baron's nephew, Fade Rotha, is played by Austin Butler, who gives a brilliant performance, along with the accomplished French actress Léa Seydoux, who matches him beat for beat as the Bene Gesserit Lady Margot Fenring. Now, their scenes together in Dune Part 2 comprise just a small incident in the Dune novel. As I mentioned, the novel doesn't seem concerned with the uniqueness of individuals for the most part, and the incident is a repeat of a pattern of conduct by the Bene Gesserit, where they test the scions of the great houses to determine whether they should be killed or allowed to live and assume power. But the writing by Villeneuve with co-author John Spates brings out details that humanize these two characters. Also, Villeneuve is successful in portraying the aesthetic and auditory environment of the prison planet Seleucus Secundus, where the Emperor's shock troops are trained. The director's signature is unmistakable in Dune Parts 1 and 2. Although the predictable plot lines left me a bit cold, these are undeniably two of the best films of recent years. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.